When I was about 17, I got a job as a dog sitter to make some extra cash on the side for a car I wanted. I had a primary job, but seeing as they didn't pay me much, I decided that I needed a second source of income. Being a dog sitter was pretty easy for the most part. I'd get a call from somebody asking if I was available to watch over their dog for a day or two, depending on how long they'd be gone for. One night, I was taking care of someone's dog as the owners would be out for the whole night and wouldn't be back until early in the morning. The dog I was taking care of was a miniature dachshund, big bark, small bite. He wasn't a bother to me, but I would have to be constantly letting him out every 20 minutes or so. It was annoying, but knew it was my job, so I didn't complain, and that $100 was only 6 hours away. Fast forward a few hours later, I'm sitting at the dining room table doing my homework with him laying by my side when he suddenly jumps up and runs into the hall. Assuming he probably smelled something, I dismissed it as him doing what I guess other dogs do. I didn't care to follow him as I've seen this type of behavior in my dog before and just told him to quiet down. However, his constant annoying bark suddenly turned aggressive and angry, as if he were confronting someone or something. While dachshunds weren't attack dogs, they were pretty loud and defensive. I get up from the table and walk into the hallway to see him barking at the door that led into the garage. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach as I saw this and began to think as to what he was barking at. My fears were confirmed when I heard the sound of faint footsteps approaching the door. I didn't even dream of opening that door. I simply picked him up and ran down the hall and outside of the house to call the police. Living in somewhat of a rural town, I knew that it would take forever for an officer to get here. I go back inside with the dog and go upstairs and hide in the master bedroom just in case there really was someone down there. At this point, my body was shaking and I tried everything I could to make sure that the dog didn't bark, but I knew there was a slim chance of that. Thankfully, I hear knocking on the front door, followed by 2 or 3 people shouting police. I run downstairs and open the door to 4 officers standing there. 2 of the officers went into the basement but had to break the door down because it was locked and I didn't know where the key was. So there I am, explaining everything to the officers when the other 2 come back and said the following. "So, who's been sleeping in your garage?" They then proceeded to show me an old pillow and several beer bottles. I told them that this wasn't my house, so I didn't know. However, the sketchy part is that they never found the guy, even with a canine unit. It was the middle of summer and my parents had left for the weekend to go to our house in the Cape Cod. It's about a 2-hour drive away, so it's no big deal for them to leave me home alone for a few days. My mom had made me some pulled pork and pasta for me to heat up to eat whenever I wanted, and I had some money if I wanted to order pizza. Things were all good for the most part. The first night I was alone and I stayed up till 3 in the morning playing Xbox, so I woke up really late the next day. I checked my phone when I woke up and saw it was a little past 1. I had made plans that day to play some street hockey with my friends at 3, so I threw myself out of bed and stumbled into the shower. I take really long showers, so when my parents are gone, I go mental. I was in there for about 45 minutes on my phone scrolling through Reddit and Twitter and whatnot when I heard my front door open. The bathroom is directly upstairs from the back door, and the thing is pretty loud when it opens and closes. I immediately froze since obviously I was supposed to be alone. I waited for about 2 minutes, ears trained and trying to hear anything else. Nothing. I figured that it was just the wind or maybe my parents were home early, so I turned off the shower, wrapped my towel around myself, and slowly walked down the stairs to check it out. Even though my house is old as shit and each step on the stairs makes a super loud creak, I still took my time and tried to be as quiet as possible. I probably took 45 seconds walking down all 12 stairs. When I get to the second to last stair, right before I could see around the corner into the kitchen, I take a little breath to compose myself. In my mind, I knew I was being stupid. There obviously wasn't anything in the kitchen. There's no way I wouldn't have heard another noise, and there's no reason for them to still be in the kitchen even if there were burglars in the house. After sort of mentally chastising myself for being such a wuss, I sort of chuckled to myself for being so stupid and just normally walked the last 2 stairs and turned the corner. Standing about 2 feet away from me, in the middle of my kitchen, is a man staring straight at me, perfectly still with a massive smile on his face. The thing I remember most vividly wasn't his face or his smile, but his arms. They weren't just at his side. He held them in the strangest, most abnormal position I've ever seen. They were where one would normally hold their arms, but he had rotated them to the point where they were almost completely reversed. I don't know why I remember this so much, but it's just the most demonic, abnormal position I've ever seen. Honest to God, I think I almost had a heart attack right there. Looking back, I can realize how creepy this situation was. But in the moment, I just took a step towards him and punched him as hard as I could in the jaw. The second I connected, I beelined it up the stairs, dropping my towel in the kitchen with my heart beating out of control. I sprinted into my room and locked the door behind me. Almost without thinking, I immediately called 911, nearly in tears, and told the operator what had happened. As I sat on the floor of my room in practically the fetal position, staring at the door, praying that a cop would be here soon, I noticed the light coming from the gap between my door had stopped. The guy was standing outside of my door. There's no words to describe the feeling I had. I was paralyzed with fear, watching the shadow across the bottom of the door shift in tiny ways. I stayed balled up, staring at the gap, praying the man would go away for what seemed like an hour. All the while, the 911 operator was asking, "Hello, sir, are you there? Hello?" However, I didn't want to make a noise. Eventually, the light returned to the gap, and I heard the faintest of footsteps slowly creaking the wooden floorboards as he walked down the hall. It was silent for minutes as I just sat there curled up, unable to even speak. Right then and there, I heard banging on the front door and the sound of 2 officers entering my house. Finally, I felt safe, and I opened the door to the 2 of them standing there as I almost cried my eyes out. Nowadays, my parents don't even leave me home alone anymore. Thank God, and I check every lock in the house before going to bed. I still get nightmares occasionally, and my heart starts racing whenever I see somebody standing still. But I'm doing alright. Even working with sketch artists and a few lineups, police were never able to find out who the hell was in my house. That sends shivers down my spine every time I look outside, half expecting to see him standing across the street, smiling under a lamppost. The following events took place around May of 2009 when I was about 18 years old. I was a senior in high school at the time and was also on the football team. Oftentimes, our school would always host games at least a few times a month, and it would also be this major event that a lot of students attended. Because we had so many games, it wasn't a big surprise we had practice almost every day. As much as I hated football practice, I really enjoyed the sport and liked the amount of support my teammates and coach gave us. One day, I had came home from practice and found a note from my mom letting me know that she went to go get groceries and that she wouldn't be back till later. With me being practically drenched in sweat, I go upstairs to grab my towel and turn on the shower. I take really long showers, so when my parents aren't around, I go mental. I was probably in there for about a good 20 minutes or so when I hear the front door open. We have one of those smart locks which makes a loud beeping noise whenever somebody enters the house. The bathroom is directly above from where the front door is, and I could still hear it even through the thickness of the walls and the running shower. I turn off the shower and put some clothes on and go downstairs to see that the door was indeed open. Figuring it was probably my mom, I go outside to see if she needed help with the groceries, only to find out that her car was nowhere in sight. Alarms start going off in my head as the only people who knew the password were my mom and as well as our meter reader who comes once a month. Why my dad isn't with us is another story, but I then walk slowly back inside to see if there was any other signs of attempted break-in. I turned the corner into my kitchen and what I saw there chilled me to the bone. There was a man I had never seen before crouched down by our pantry. He was holding a large knife. By some stupid luck, he didn't seem to notice me as he was facing in the opposite direction. I covered my mouth with my hands and went back upstairs quietly to call the police as well as my mom. I dialed 911 and tried my very best to speak into the phone as quietly as I could, even while hyperventilating. The operator had told me that I should stay hidden and not to come out no matter what. While on the phone with her, I hear footsteps coming up the stairs, and not even 10 seconds later, I hear a steady and slow knock at my bedroom door. It was at this point when I began to realize that I was crying. But it was too late because I knew he was coming for me. Suddenly, I hear my bedroom door slam open and I see the man step inside. At this point, I'm trying not to make a peep, fearing he'll hear me and kill me. What happened next is what I can only describe as a gift from God. I begin to hear sirens in the distance getting louder and louder as they came closer to my house. I then saw him leave my room and hurry down the stairs before hearing the heavy knocks at my front door and someone shouting police. After about a good minute, I run down the stairs and opened the door and was greeted to 3 police officers that began to question me while searching the house. My mom also ended up coming home as quick as she could. However, the police never found the man. He had got away scot-free through our breezeway door, which also had a lock. Police still weren't sure as to how he had managed to pick the lock, and there was no other signs of break-in anywhere in the house.